Welcome back to the channel. You see the information on the screen, so you know what I'm about. So let's get into it. Today, we're going to basically be looking at a video from one of my favorite people, Helena Paschal, and she's basically talking a little bit about why a man should never live with a woman. And I honestly, was a little bit interested in this, but just simply because I love Helena. I've done a lot of her videos. So if you go back and look at my history, you'll see several of her videos that has popped up and I actually have gone over and done reactions to. And I just, Helena just has such good energy. And at one time, we actually even had a little back and forth going. So it was really kind of cool, to be able to have that. And even, we kind of reached out to each other on Instagram. And then maybe one day, she might pop up on the channel because many of you see that I've been doing a lot more interviews and, having conversations with people because I'm really trying, like I say, to beat this thing of singleness and really get us to a place, where we can, be in relationship. That is all of what, I am about on this channel. But when I saw this one, I was like, okay, I got to take a look at what she's talking about. And I'll admit, I've already watched most of this video, so I'm not going to show the whole thing.
Why a man should not move in with a woman. Now, we see on these internet streets, it is this huge divide. Why can't a woman take care of a man? A man has been protecting and providing for women forever. So why is this even a big issue? Now, I could dive into that, but I'm going to dive into the actual reality of it because I just really can't believe other men and other women that have lived with someone else. A man has moved in with a woman that was more successful than him. I cannot believe there are not more men that are saying something about this because, yeah, that would be nice, right? Move in with a woman and you only have to pay a light bill. She's cooking, she's cleaning, she's walking around in heels, making love to you. I can't even say it without laughing. If you know, like I know, and I only know my experience, so maybe it's my experience that has me jaded, but there is no way in the world this woman is not going to make your life a living hell. You do not want to be in a situation, men, where a woman has the authority and she is leading the house because she is paying the bulk of the bills. Now, I'm not talking about the exception to the rule because there are men that are going to be like, I've been married for 15, 25 years and me and my wife, we get along perfectly and she makes more than me. That's the exception, not a rule. If a man moves in with a woman and he has no money and he can only pay a little bit or not enough, she is going to be in control. She is going to be in control. And I'm speaking from my experience. I've had 2 long-term relationships of which I lived with the person. I know you're going to say, we should have been married. Being married does not guarantee that you're going to be on the same page. According to studies, after 8 years, less than 12% are in married couples are happily cohabitating or happily living together in love with each other. They have made a commitment. So you are used to compromising because that's what marriage is. It's a commitment and it's ongoing compromise and growing and evolving and living together and just doing the best you can to get through this journey called life. But as far as like encouraging men to be with women to protect and provide for them.
So first of all, I don't know why Helena's voice went up when she was, talking about a man. She was like, I don't know, blah, blah, blah. And it was funny because it was supposed to be a man's voice, so it should have been down here. Like, I don't know why, you saying that a man can't, so it's kind of funny to me. But anyway, like I said, I've already been through this video. It's actually decently long, and I know I'll make this video really long if I watch the whole thing. So I'm just going to kind of get to the point on it. First of all, I just have to say I definitely agree with the core elements of what Helena is saying. But this is more of a single person's thing. She talked about it even from a marriage perspective, but it really is different if you're looking at it from a marriage perspective versus from a single person's perspective. And what's really interesting about this particular topic is this is one thing that me and my father, because my father is still around, and me and him talk all the time. And, he even talks about it. He's like, never, move in with a woman. He's like, if y'all ain't married, y'all don't, you do not, move in with her. And even if you do, You don't move into her house. She can move in with you, but you do not move into her place. And a lot of the things that Helena, will talk about if you guys want to watch that particular video, kind of align with that. But I think the difference between what she is saying is because she's looking at it from a woman's perspective. And for me, I look at it from a man's perspective. But I also look at it from a respect perspective. See, when two people come together, even if they're not married, right? There's going to be certain rules and regulations that both people kind of want the other side to abide to, right? And see, I've talked to you guys a lot about girlfriend energy, boyfriend energy, husband energy, and wife energy. And if two people are living together, but they both have husband and wife energy, so they have spouse energy, what's going to happen is they're actually going to cohabitate very well because they're not going to disrespect each other. They're going to play their role and everything's going to work out. But if one person has girlfriend or boyfriend energy, everything's going to fall apart. See, one of the examples that she uses later on, which is, the guy moves in with her, right? And so he's moved in with Helena. And so now he decides, okay, I want to be out with my boys. So he wants to go out. He wants to have fun that night or whatever it is. And now it's like 1 a.m. when he's coming home. And so she's like, hold on, you can't do that. And, she in her mind, she's put a curfew on him because she's like, you shouldn't be out like that. But let's be real. If a woman lives with a man, the man is going to put a curfew on the woman as well. See, the curfew is not about anything other than the house. See, the house has a curfew. The environment has a curfew. The relationship has a curfew. And that's why I'm always, telling you guys about things like, girls trips, guys trips, girls brunches and lunches and all these other kind of things, and guys, going out to kick it with their boys. See, when you're married, you're coming into different energy. You should not want those things as you once wanted them. And see, when people try to hybrid it, they want to, I just want a little bit of marriage life, but I don't want the full marriage life. I want the best of marriage life, but I don't want to have to deal with what I consider the commitment of marriage life. And when you're in that mode, you're basically playing a game that really doesn't ever work. And the reason why it doesn't work is because we have certain things that is written in our subconscious that wants things to be a certain way. And when it's not that way, we honestly kind of get frustrated about it. And even when Helena was talking about the whole thing about the 7-year itch, because that's all that is. Again, it goes way, way back all the way to the baby boomers where they would talk about the 7-year itch. Now she's talking about, like I say, 8 years, people are generally unhappy. And the reason why they're unhappy again in marriage is because they haven't invested in the marriage. See, marriage is something you have to work on every single day of your life. It is not something that you can just come in and say, I'm married now. Now I don't have nothing to do. And unfortunately, both men and women find themselves in this trap. A lot of men, might hear certain men saying, you got to get married, man. You got to do this. You're trying to have your kids. You're trying to do this. You want to, get away from loneliness, blah, blah, blah. So the men don't get married. And then women, basically have been, inundated with it their whole life. So now they finally feel like they've, crossed the finish line. But in both cases, that's the wrong way to look at it. Marriage is, like I say, an ongoing work for the rest of your life. So then you might say, well, Jay, why get married then if it's going to be work? Well, it's going to be work either way. Life is always work. I've told you all before, even when you look at everything that God has done, he never allows any group of people to go without work. That's just how it is. And no matter how good something becomes, even Jesus talks about even good things are pruned. Why? So they will become even better. God is a God of growth. He is a God of getting better. He is not a God of basically allowing things to just be at their worst and die off, right? And so we have to understand that it's work, but it's good work. It's work, but it's happy work. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever worked so hard on something and then it almost brought you to tears. Sometimes you'll see it in movies, like where a woman, is giving birth. And she's giving birth and she's pushing this baby out. And then finally the baby comes out, the baby is crying. And then you look at the mom and she's crying, and why is she crying is because it's such a beautiful moment. She has worked 10 months, like I say, some people think it's 9 months. It's really closer to 10, but she's pushed and worked and done all this, plus all that labor, in order to get that baby out. And now after all that pain, after all that work, there is this flow of emotion that she can't even control anymore. And now she's crying. And you see the same thing in things like the Oscars. And I'll be admit, I'm one of the, strongest people that I know, right? And most people have never seen me cry. I mean, besides like my parents and my sister, which probably remember me crying at 12 and 13 years old, most people have never seen me cry. And I remember when I won my very first award, for filmmaking. And this thing took me 2.5 years of work. I was stressing out with actors and locations and all this other kind of stuff. And finally, I won an award, for all my hard work. Didn't even get no money, but I won this award. And I'm not going to lie, it took everything in me to hold the tears back. I literally could feel them welling up, right? And that is how marriage is. It's a beautiful work, right? But when you are in a situation where you're just living with somebody, that's why I say you're kind of in and you're kind of out, right? And so it's a little bit different. But let's get back to this whole thing. When you do things out of order, there's almost always a penalty to pay, right? And men can get very frustrated. And I know a lot of guys that watch me get frustrated with sometimes some of the things that I say. And the reason why I know they get frustrated is because they really want things to be different. It's the same thing. Women want things to be different. Everybody wants things to be different. But as we start to play the game with different rules, we find out it doesn't work. Over and over again, it doesn't work. We keep trying to make it work, but it doesn't work. And what I've learned is that we can continue to try to do that and then just find ourselves in more pain and frustration and anger, or we can just play the game the way it was meant to be played. And when it comes down, to provision, okay, a woman just loses respect for a man if she provides for him. She just does. I've never seen it in a situation where it doesn't happen. I have friends who have been married for 20 plus years, right? And several of them, told me straight up, there was a point in, somewhere in their marriage where they were down in the dumps, right? And they might have lost their job. They might have been in between jobs. They might have been in some other kind of situation. And so they had to lean in on their wife's job. And some of them, their wife started to do much better. The wife might have gone on and got a second degree or a third degree. And so now the wife's making $100,000 a year, whatever it is. And now, my friend might just be making 80, or he might have had to take some kind of middle job right now, but while he's waiting on trying to get to a better job. So he might have dropped down to maybe making 50 or 60. The wife is making 100. And now all of a sudden, all the dynamic in the house changes. And it's not just the fact that the woman is coming in saying, hey, I got all this money and blah, blah, blah. I mean, everything changes. And he can even feel a lot of them, because there was multiple that went through this. And most of them would tell me they could feel the attraction of their wife leaving them. When they might want sex, or when they might just, want something, that's a little bit more romantic from their wives, the wife just seemed to be a little bit more annoyed, aloof, and I'm not really down for it right now. And through that, through that process, it taught me a lot of lessons. And one of those lessons, like I said, that I've discussed with so many different men and even discussed with a lot of women, it is just very difficult for women because provision is just such a major thing in their attraction. It's just how they're built. And again, we can try to argue with it. We can try to fuss and fight with it. But I'm constantly telling you all, if you try to fight against the non-negotiables, it is really like you are banging your head against a brick wall. It doesn't work. It never works. And all it does is just make you more upset and more angry. And half of the internet is obsessed with being angry over these types of things, instead of just getting to a situation where you can actually do those things for your person, right? It's the main reason why there's so many successful black women upset, because they make so much money that now for a man to provide for them, they're actually having to fight against literally 1% of the male population. And at that level, men don't care. And that becomes the frustration for women at that level. There was a guy here in Atlanta. He was actually on the radio, and he got beat up pretty bad by the women because he was basically encouraging women to be broke, to take low end jobs and things like that. And I mean, I remember this clearly. It was like 10 years ago. And he was a radio host. And like I said, the women were just calling in, going off on him and stuff like that. But what he had understood, even though back then we weren't doing the research that we do now, but what he understood was that women that didn't have much seemed to be happier in their relationships. But women who had a lot, as far as money and stuff, tended to be more unhappy. And see, this goes straight into the household situation. See, when a man comes into a woman's house, you're coming into her power. Okay? This is her place. This is her kingdom. Okay? She's the queen on the throne. So now you are basically a servant in her area, right? So now you being in there is almost kind of like you're her plaything. And so if you don't do what she wants you to do, then now you're out the door. I mean, you find so many different things like this where you see it on TV and stuff like that, where the woman is throwing the man out because he might do any little thing, because at that point, she wants full control. And see, that's when it comes from that protection, provision, leadership mindset. All of that starts to take over. And so now you can never be a true man in that environment, ever. At that point, I don't care really who you are. It is so rare to have a woman that is that disciplined that she can see you as a full man and you're coming into her environment. Now, it's different if you guys get married and you move into her house. But even if you did that, I actually encourage you not to do it. Like right now, the economy is rough. So I fully understand why, sometimes you might have to do that. A person might have to do that. But again, it's very difficult because at that point, you might say, okay, well, I'm going to take this room, this guest room, I'm going to make it an office. And she's like, that's my reading room. And see, she's already, taken dominion in every area. And see, women do that. They do that naturally. If a man has a 5-bedroom house, let's be real, he probably is going to have a bedroom and he's going to have an office and he might have a man cave, but that's pretty much it. But a woman, if she lives in a 5-bedroom house, she's going to have dominion over every single one of those rooms. She's going to find something for every one of those rooms, and each and every last one of those rooms is going to be decorated with her desire. That is how women are. That's why we say, a man buys the house or builds the house, and then the woman makes it a home, because she's going to make sure that she fully spreads her wings throughout all of that environment. That's how women are. Again, this goes back to the non-negotiables. So when a man puts himself into a woman's environment, you're basically putting yourself in as prey and as a less of a man in that environment. And while there always are exceptions to every rule, like Helena said, it's extremely rare. And it's just not something that you want to really get yourself into. It's something that can cause you more problems than it can solve. And it always goes back to the subconscious, which you cannot control. You cannot control a woman's subconscious, and a woman cannot control a man's subconscious. And that's why I'm always talking about the non-negotiables, because people try to fight them, all the time. And like I said, I've seen women try to fight them. I've seen men try to fight them. And when men are not about their money, they're not about their protection, they're not about their provision, those men struggle. And when women are not about their kindness, they're not about their support, and they're not about their beauty, those women struggle. And it just is what it is. And so the more you fight it, the more problems that you have. So yeah, guys, just stay out of women's houses. You can go over there. I mean, if y'all are dating, yes, you can hang out over there a little bit, but stay out of their houses. Never move in with a woman. You just don't do it. And like I said, if you can marry them and move into a brand new house that neither one of you has ever lived in, that is the ideal. That is the ideal. Like I said, I understand sometimes you can't do that, but that is the ideal. You want a neutral environment that neither one of you has gone into. And I know a lot of women, because there's women now in CSC that are over 50, and they're like, well, I got my house and I got this and I don't want to do that. Well, then I'm always saying, again, you need to double check whether or not you want to get married. Because marriage is starting over. It does not matter if you're 70. It does not matter if you're 20. Okay? When you're coming together, you need to be starting afresh. All right? But if you are going to move into an environment, it does work a little bit better when the woman moves into the man's environment. Because men, when they sit on the throne, okay, they tend to be more open because now you have a king and now you're bringing in a queen. Right? And when we look at things historically, a king might be slightly higher than the queen, but the king doesn't hold that over the woman. At least a good, healthy king is not going to hold that over the woman. And there's nothing in the man's subconscious where that's a bad thing. But for a woman, there's something in her subconscious that says this ain't right. And because it's in her subconscious, she doesn't even know what's really going on, but she loses attraction. All right. And you don't want the woman to lose attraction. Anyway, so remember, membership is open if you want to do that. On September 4th, I will be, doing a live around 7 o'clock Eastern time. So if you guys want to hang out for that, it'll also be on the Zoom. Go check out the community page because I'm trying to put a little bit more stuff out there so we can interact more. And anyway, please like, please subscribe, and I'm going to see you all in the very next video.